We'll call the meeting to order. We'll start with the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Let's get to the agenda. There we go. Okay, first order of business is approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda.
Okay, with the addition of introduction before the petitions.
Sure.
Okay. All right, the motion's been made to approve with the addition of Jordan and seconded by Elizabeth. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. The agenda is approved. Approval of the minutes of the last meeting. I read through them and they look like they were fairly accurate to some extent. No, I didn't see anything.
I moved that they accept it.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay. The motion was made by Elizabeth to approve and seconded by Chelsea. And as the minutes as they are written and printed here, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. The minutes are approved. The next order of business is introduction.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and Board of Adjustment members.
Good
I have
afternoon.
the pleasure of introducing to you our new planner, Olivia Stransky. And Olivia actually has been here 6 months, but because of how the petitions have fallen and certain training that that position undergoes, she hasn't had the pleasure of meeting all of you. So I'm making the introduction, and I have to say, as I said to her in my office this morning, how very happy that we are to have her on staff. She's doing a great job so far, and I think you'll find that out.
Okay. Welcome.
Thank you.
Olivia, could you tell us a little bit about your background and education and where you're from?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm actually from Winona. Grew up out in Miller Valley in Richmond Township. I went to UW Stevens Point for school and graduated with a land use planning bachelor's degree. And after graduation, I went and worked for the Red Cliff Tribe up near Bayfield, Wisconsin. Originally started off in their natural resource department and then worked in their planning department for about 2 years. And then my fiance and I moved back down here in the beginning of April for this position. And I've been doing septic training and planning and zoning work ever since then.
Oh, welcome.
Thank you.
Any other? Do you have more to say?
Just the two
Okay.
petitions. Yep.
Okay.
Oh, you're doing the petition?
Yes.
Oh,
Yep.
okay, good.
All right. Well, I introduce it then and then you can, okay. The first petition today is docket number BOA 915-22-1 to consider the petition of Jeff Giroux on behalf of property owner Janelle Liebig in regards to the following. A variance is requested to allow a subsurface sewage treatment system holding tank 4 feet from a property line instead of the required 10 feet. 4 feet from the dwelling instead of the required 10 feet, and an SSTS absorption area 5 feet from a structure instead of the required 20 feet. Relief is sought by the petitioner pursuant to Chapter 13.6 of the Winona County zoning ordinances, SSTS standards adopted by reference to the Minnesota rules. Okay. Do you have the presentation then?
I do. Yep.
Okay.
So both of the petitions today, Jeff Giroux submitted on behalf of the property owners. Jeff's company is Septic Pro, so he's doing the design work for both of the systems, and he's here in the audience if you do have technical questions for him. So like the chair stated, this is the request. Both requests today are also for relief from the setbacks for septic systems. The first one is 185 Center Street in the city of Dakota. It's in Dresbach Township. Section 7, and then the parcel ID is listed. The property itself is outlined in red. It's above Franklin Street there, if you can see that. So these are two site plans. On the right is the petitioner submitted. So you can see that the proposed system is going between that house structure and the garage. And then on the left is just an aerial that I had used to show where the new tanks and then the treatment area would go. So the setback relief that they're seeking is the property line to the north, the holding tank setback to the southern property line, and then the treatment area to the structures. So some of the site considerations, City of Dakota typically has smaller lots, so it's 50 by 100. The current system consists of 3 holding tanks. There's a dry well, and then the current system would be replaced with a UV treatment system and mound drain field that does not meet the setbacks. So I did a site visit a few weeks ago, and there are a couple of pictures following just showing where Jeff had staked out for the site. So in the right picture, you can see that yellow arrow right angle. So that's where I was standing when I took the picture, to just give a little bit of a reference. So the larger picture on the left is showing where the stakes are in relation to the house and garage and sidewalk. The 4 that are circled are the absorption area stakes. This is just another view of the absorption area in relation, looking the other way towards the house now. So this would be behind the house, closer to the southern property boundary, which you can see the fence is running right there. And that would be the locations for the 2 holding tanks. Jeff did submit the township acknowledgement form, and it did go to the City of Dakota for decision. It was submitted on September 12th, and the City of Dakota indicated support for the project. So staff's criteria and findings, the location of the septic system without resorting to a holding tank was really the only location left on the lot that the treatment system could be sited. And we found that the request meets the 8 criteria for granting a variance. Our recommendation, if the Board of Adjustment should consider all materials and testimony before making findings that support their decision. Staff analysis and draft findings support granting the variance, and we have drafted 2 conditions for your consideration should you decide to approve the petition. If you have no other questions for me, Jeff is here if you do have technical questions. Otherwise,
Go ahead, Jordan.
Do you know where the well is located on that property?
Yeah.
let me.
On that?
That's way over in the left.
So if the neighbor had a well close by, they would need a variance for that as well, right?
Yeah.
They would.
It's on this page.
Okay.
Okay.
So could I just I have no knowledge of this type of system in any detail. Could you explain how the system works? And it sounds like there's an absorption area and then holding tanks. Please. Is that okay with you, Bob?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay, hi, my name's Jeff. I'm the owner of Septic Pros. I am the designer and the contractor for this job. There aren't holding tanks on this job. This job will have a septic tank and then a pre-treatment tank. And then a mound drain field. So it's like a conventional system, but we're utilizing a pre-treatment tank to help treat the liquid before it goes to the absorption area. So we can modify the absorption requirements.
Is the absorption area just, it's not, there's no tank in the absorption area, right?
No, the way the absorption area works is we utilize a sand media and the dirt in the ground to filter the sewage water back to earth. So it's just like a regular standard conventional septic system.
And are the pre-treatment tanks,
Mhm.
do they come in various sizes?
Yeah, both the septic tank and the pretreatment tank comes in different sizes. Based on the number of bedrooms and the occupancy of the house, you size that according to it.
That's how the size of these tanks was determined.
Correct. Yep, this is a 4-bedroom house, so the tanks are sized for a 4-bedroom structure.
And I totally understand that. And I just raise a question out of curiosity. Are there tank sizes that would be smaller, even though they may not be consistent with the number of bedrooms, but that would then result in no need for the setback variation?
I will answer that as no. If we went with smaller tanks, we would basically be overloading the system, which would then make the system break. If we did not use a drain field system, then we'd have to resort into a holding tank setup. And a holding tank would have to be emptied periodically. And depending on the use, I always inform my customers that more than likely they'll have to empty the tanks once a month. So the burden on that can be quite substantial.
And are the holding tanks, do they come in various sizes, or is there one?
Same thing like the septic tanks and the pretreatments, there are various sizes for holding tanks. Yes.
And if hypothetically, if only a holding tank was used, would setback variations be necessary?
If we went to a holding tank, I believe we could get it without needing any variances. Basically, the location where the mound is going is substantially larger than a large holding tank. So we probably could meet all the requirements for that. Now, I will stress that the requirements for setbacks for tanks of any tank, holding tank or pretreatment, compared to a drain field are different. Holding tanks and septic tanks are designed to be watertight. So those setbacks are usually a lot smaller than the absorption areas for the drain fields.
And going with this type of system that's being proposed, I think at some point, one component has to be empty.
Just like a conventional septic system, the septic tank and the pretreatment tanks do still have to be serviced, monitored, and cleaned. Yes, but the intervals are nowhere near as often as a holding tank.
And just tough approximately, how long do you go between empty periods? And
For this specific system, because of the pretreatment, the operating permit requests that it be pumped once a year, and we sample the liquid twice a year.
so basically, we're going from emptying once a month to approximately once a year.
Yes.
Thank you.
Is the variance requested because I just wanted to clear on the holding tank, because it says for the holding tank, 4 feet from the property.
Yeah, I think,
Is that septic or holding? I mean,
yeah,
two
so
different
the
tanks?
term should be actually called septic.
Okay, that's what,
Yes.
yeah, that's what I was, okay.
Yeah, so that it should not say holding tank.
Okay, good. Yeah, I
Yeah.
was,
Yeah.
that's one concern. Any other questions? If not, thank you.
Okay, thank you guys.
And then I would entertain a motion to open up to the public hearing.
Motion to open the public hearing.
Okay, second. Jordan has moved that we open it up to the public, and Elizabeth has seconded. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. The meeting is now open to the public. Is there anyone who wishes, from the public, who wishes to address docket number BOA 91522, number 1, for petition that's being offered by Jeff Giroux for Janelle Liebig? For the second time, is there anyone who wishes to address this petition before the board? And for the third and final time, is there anyone who wishes to address this petition BOA 9/15/22-1. If not, I would entertain a motion to close it to the public.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Okay,
Second.
okay. Jordan has made a motion to close the meeting to the public and Ed has seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say nay. The hearing is closed to the public and open to the board members. Does anyone have any issues?
No, I think in this case, this is the most reasonable. I hate to see them lose their entire yard to a drain field, but it's better than having holding tanks, I suppose.
They can still play on top of it, just don't drive on it.
Those lots in Dakota are all the same size, aren't they? 100 by 50.
Yes, I think.
So
At least these two are.
everybody's going to have the same problem.
That's the problem. If there aren't any concerns, go ahead, Elizabeth.
Yeah, I have one more question.
Okay.
What do you do with the old system?
Good question. Mhm.
Yeah, so the old system, as long as it's outside the wellhead zone, can be collapsed and filled in. Part of it is gonna have to be pulled out and removed. Because where the drain field is going, there's actually an existing tank. So we'll have to pump that out and then actually remove that tank.
So then, all right, so then it's a restored place.
Yes.
Okay,
Mr. Chair, I do one thing.
yes.
It was brought to my attention that there was an additional component to this that was not in the draft findings of fact that you saw. If you'll look at your, at the PowerPoint, I believe, I have to go to the chat that I was just received. So the variances should be to allow for a subsurface sewage treatment system, septic tanks 4 feet from the property line instead of 10, 4 feet from a dwelling instead of 10, and an SSTS absorption area 5 feet from a structure instead of the required 20, which are already on the findings, but there's also an additional one of 0 feet from the property line instead of the 10 feet for that SSTS absorption area. So I'll add that to it if that's
Okay.
all right with this board.
Okay, is that all right with everyone?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, I was just gonna comment too, that I was glad to see the Dakota city support it instead of being neutral.
Yeah.
Usually they have no comments, so I thought that was good that somebody is finally taking responsibility.
I think they should bring it back, bring the vote back.
It's, yeah,
I would make a motion to accept the findings of fact as written, with the change that Stephanie made. And recommend or approve this.
Recommendation.
with the conditions.
Yeah, with the conditions.
Okay,
I second.
okay, there's a second. Jordan has moved that we approve it as written with the addition from Stephanie and the conditions, and Elizabeth has seconded it. Are there further discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a vote. All those in favor of granting the petition as amended, say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. The petition is granted, and I will read if I find it. The required statement. All decisions by the Board of Adjustment in granting variances or in hearing appeals from any administrative order, requirement, decision, or determination shall be final, except that any aggrieved person or persons or any department, board, of commission of the jurisdiction or of the state shall have the right to appeal within 30 days after receipt of the notice of the decision to the district court in the county in which the land is located on questions of law and fact. Any party that would like to submit an appeal to the decision just rendered at this public hearing must do so to the district court. The planning department is not responsible for filing the appeal. And as soon as I find my agenda, we'll move on to the next petition. And the next order of business is docket number BOA 9/15/22, number 2, is to consider the petition of Jeff Giroux on behalf of property owners William Cook and Caitlin Kimball in regards to the following. A variance is requested to allow a subsurface treatment system, holding tank or septic tank, I assume, 5 feet from a property line instead of the required 10 feet, and 5 feet from a dwelling instead of the required 10 feet. Relief is sought by the petitioner pursuant to Chapter 13.6 of the Winona County Zoning Ordinance SSTS standards. Is there a presentation by Olivia? Okay,
And just to clarify, this one is a holding tank.
it is, okay.
Yep.
Correct myself.
So this one again is going to be, they're seeking relief from variance setbacks for the property, like the chair had read. You'll notice too, there are a couple of mentions of a Terry Misch as property owner for this property. There was a point of sale, so the correct and current owners for the property are William and Caitlin. So if you do
Okay.
see Terry's name, he was the previous owner that worked with Jeff to get a new design. This one's also located in the city of Dakota at 760 Main Street. It's about not even 2 blocks away from the first petition. Rosebach Township, Section 7, with a parcel ID listed below. You can see it just above Franklin Street. Again, they're outlined in red. For the 2 site plans for this one, you'll see that the structure takes up most of the lot. So the new holding tank location is going to be in the northwest corner of that lot, north of the driveway. Some of the site considerations, again, for City of Dakota, the standard city lot is measuring 50 by 100. The current septic system is a drywall and septic tank to the north of the driveway, and it's been determined to be failing to protect groundwater, which is the need for a new replacement system. So some pictures for the overview. If you're looking at it from the northern property boundary, you can see where the area for the holding tank is circled in red. There's a play structure there currently, so they would have to move that, but Jeff did stake out the site. And then you can see kind of faintly, but there are pink flags in the ground running in a straight line. Those are the property, that's the property line that he flagged. So again, looking towards the east, you can see where the new proposed holding tank would be. If you're looking at it in relation to the house, you can see why there's the need for the relief from the structure setback. And then here's the justification for the need from the property boundary. There's really not too much more room elsewhere to fit the holding tank. The City of Dakota heard this project on September 12th, and they indicated support in regards to the request. Some of the criteria and findings: the location of the holding tank was the only site on the lot that was accessible and available. There aren't any other sites on the property that would have enough space for a standard system that would include like an absorption area or some of those other components for septic treatment areas. We found that the request does meet the 8 criteria for granting a variance. Our recommendation is that the Board of Adjustment should consider all materials and testimony before making findings that support their decision. Staff analysis and draft findings support granting the variance. And should you decide to approve the petition, we've drafted 2 conditions for consideration that are in the packet.
Any questions for Olivia?
Yeah. How do the property owners identify that this is a need?
When they sold the property, we require a point of sale form to be completed, so that either forces the seller to hire someone to do an inspection, a compliance inspection for their system to see whether it's in compliance with state code or not. And if they choose not to do that, then it would automatically go to failure, so it would need a new design. Sometimes, so in this instance, they didn't have an inspection because they knew they had a dry well, and a dry well is an automatic failure according to state
Oh,
code.
okay.
So they knew they would need it to be replaced.
So in the previous situation, was there a sale there or did they know they had a dry well? Say
So
what?
there was a sale and they also had a dry well.
Okay.
So it's a similar
Okay.
situation.
Okay, and just on average, what's this system renovation going to cost the homeowner?
I couldn't answer that, but Jeff might have better numbers.
Can you give us an estimate, Jeff?
For this specific system?
No, well, what,
Yeah, so it all depends on the type of system. This one that we're presenting right now, this is in the 7,000 to 8,000 range. Mainly because it's just a tank and there is obviously some construction equipment and materials in that respect. The presentation before, it's a little bit more involved, a lot more materials, a lot more technology. That one's about $20,000.
okay,
Any other questions for Jeff while he's up here?
The only question I have, Jeff, is that even if the playground equipment was removed, they'd still be relegated to this holding tank system.
Right, this property with the location of the house, the driveway, and the well does not leave a lot of room. We are putting in the biggest single tank that is made in the area of 3,000 gallons. And that only leaves a handful of feet in every direction to fit this in. If we don't do this tank, then they basically don't have a sewer system.
And this is one of those systems that requires more frequent emptying.
So this system, because there's no room for a treatment or a drain field, this one literally holds the water, and when it gets to capacity, it's got to be emptied out, which depending on the use, can be, about once a month.
Thank you.
Is the land above it's buried, is the land is still usable for a playset, right?
Yeah, the only
Other than-
the only thing that will be at the surface is basically the manhole cover for accessing to clean it.
Yep.
Other than that, the yard will basically be restored. Actually,
as
probably
it
even
is.
better than it looks now.
Okay.
this house in this request looks newer, a lot newer than the other house.
The house?
Yeah.
I think it's just because of the siding.
Okay,
I mean, these houses are
Are
a
old.
block apart, and
okay,
this one happened to have been updated some, where
Okay.
the other one has not yet.
Is there, are there inspections and testing like with the other system we discussed? Like periodically,
What do
or
you,
is it just,
you mean the servicing of the other system?
yeah, I mean, is there similar testing like,
No, so this system, when there's an alarm set up at 75% capacity, so then I would be notified to come empty it, and then process starts over. So other than emptying out the tank when it's reaching capacity, there is no other testing or anything required.
and where does that sewage go when it's,
Depending on the situations, we either take it to a sewer plant or we land apply it.
what's a service call cost?
It depends, obviously with fuel and everything. Right now, in this area, a service call to empty a holding tank is $140.
And that's once a month for them.
Depending on use.
Yeah.
Is the notification automatic? I mean, or do they see the alarm and they call you?
Yeah,
Or is
so there's an alarm that's audible and visual.
Mhm.
And we have contracts with all the customers that have holding tanks that it's their responsibility to notify
Okay, yeah.
me when that goes off. And then promptly, within usually a couple of days, we're there to service it and empty the system up.
Any other questions for Jeff? Okay, thanks,
All
Jeff.
right, thank you.
All right. If
motion to
not,
open the public hearing?
okay, we have a second?
Second.
Second, okay. Motion has been made to open it to the public by Jordan and seconded by Elizabeth. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Hi.
All those opposed say nay. All right, the petition is open for public discussion. Is there anyone here, or I guess you have to be here now, that wishes to address this petition? For the second time, is there anyone here who wishes to address this petition before the board? BOA 91522-2. And for the third and final time, is there anyone who wishes to address this petition? Hearing none, all those in favor of closing to the public, say aye.
Hi.
Aye. All those opposed say nay. The meeting is closed to the public and open to discussion of the board. And I assume everybody read, I didn't ask before, but everybody read all the conditions and findings and the staff report, which is input on it, which is very good. I didn't see any. Go ahead, Jordan.
Kind of disagree with this being consistent with the comprehensive plan. I don't think that we have a lot of choice in the matter, and
Yeah.
obviously it would be nice if they would have put in a sewer system. But it does say that Winona County will prohibit or severely limit the use of holding tanks, specifically to applications where water use is low. I don't think an entire city full of holding tanks is consistent with that. I just want to go on record saying
Yeah,
that, and
yeah.
So that's a good point.
With the reservation.
How would that be avoided? I mean, would there be, have
It's,
to
yeah,
be
that's the problem.
some kind of regulation with the city itself?
Yeah, well, I think
Treatment plant.
yeah, I think a treatment plant would be the best option, but I also think it should be the city's responsibility in some part rather than passing all of this off to the citizens of the county. If they could at least coordinate with the citizens, maybe double up some, the neighbor has a lot more space than they do. And if they could get one single treatment area there to cover both houses would be much
Much
better than
better.
having holding
Yeah.
tanks. But it seems like they're not doing anything other than saying, well, we support a variance, but
It's,
Is that a, something that the owners could, in Dakota, could go to the city and request?
yeah, I think so, but they're not gonna want to. If they don't have to change anything, they don't have to pay any money, they're gonna just leave it as is, I'm
It
sure.
depends on the pressure.
what is
Yeah.
what is the legal entity? Because the form says township, but that means that the city or village of Dakota, is that a legal entity that has a border and everything? Or is Dresbach the township, or?
For purposes of this, I don't believe they are a legal entity other than the township.
Okay, and it's Dresbach Township? Okay, go ahead, Lou.
The city of Dakota is a municipality. So city of Dakota has the land use authority within their municipal boundaries. I think some of you are aware, but we can, a little bit of a recap. The MPCA a number of years ago did send official notice to the city that they needed to do something. As they'd been flagged as being a community of high-risk community, and they knew that there was a community-wide problem with septic systems and wastewater treatment. And so in the late 2000s, PCA, the county, city of Dakota, and then Dresbach Township, the old part of Dresbach Township along the river, the village part, all started assessing and working on a community solution for those communities, which would have involved a collection system and a more modern sewage treatment plant. They spent hundreds of thousands of dollars and years researching that and looking into it. And at probably within, I don't know, was it 5 years ago? I think it was, well, years after you came, the communities stepped away and they balked, thought it was too expensive. didn't want to be told that they had to do it. Well, the communities were pretty split, but the elected officials eventually stepped away from it. And so that effectively put it back in the court of individual property owners being regulated by the county as far as the septic systems went. So just to give you a little background as to the how that goes, Minnesota Pollution Control Agency regulates septic systems as well as wastewater treatment plants. County regulates septic systems, and then municipalities are responsible for their municipal treatment plants as well, with in coordination with the state. So for our petitions, since it's in a city, instead of the township commenting on the variance, it would be the city. So we use our township acknowledgement form, but it would be the municipality that we ask to weigh in on whether they approve or do not approve of that variance or conditional use permit.
Is Dresbach a municipality?
Dresbach is a township.
Yeah, but I mean, but there is a village, I mean, there's, because they were looking at both,
The
I mean,
village of
there doesn't
Dresbach is not incorporated.
not incorporated, okay,
Yep, so it is not
Right.
it is just a township board.
okay.
Well, I think there's going to be some federal money available for this kind of need.
We found them, this was a number of years ago, but we had applied for, the county actually applied for grants through the Public Facility Authority at the state of Minnesota, and had received, and I mean, I want to say somewhere in the neighborhood of $3 million to help with the cost. And then we were also bringing in some Ag BMP and other loan and grants dollars that could pay for some of the connections that people were going to have to make, because there was going to be a collection system, a treatment plant, and then property owners were going to have to pay into that and also pay to connect. And so we were going to have some cost sharing for that connection cost. So there was significant state dollars that were going to go
That
towards
could
it,
have-
and some
That
federal
could have helped.
that were going to help. I think the costs were going to be per user, residential user was going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of $35 to $45 a month. And that was just too much for those communities to bear, apparently. So instead, we're looking at individuals having to spend up to $20,000 in some cases, and $100 and some a month on pumping anyways for a holding tank system. So it doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but I'm not a resident of those communities, and didn't have a voice.
What was their issue? The cost?
A lot of it was cost. There were some land use issues, being close to a treatment plant. There were concerns about smells, blight, visual impacts. So yeah, all the kind of things that you can think of might come up,
Yeah.
would come up.
Go ahead, Chelsea.
So are all the houses that are in this town being checked and tested for these septic systems, or is it only when they're being sold that people are having them inspected and knowing that they probably need to be replaced?
We did inventories during the project in both communities. And I involved myself at one point walking those communities and knocking on doors. We had a survey, so people would voluntarily let us know what they had there. And then we would walk, and for those ones that we didn't have good information, we'd walk and try to verify just by walking by. I mean, I probably flagged just on my own, just walking through those neighborhoods, probably 20 imminent threats to public health just from people's hoses out their windows. Into their lawns. You can see soap from laundry or dishes out there. You'd have smells in the ditch. So during the process, we flagged a lot, and that all went into our scoring sheet for the PFA. And then I still keep a spreadsheet of all the properties in Dresbach and Dakota. And I update it as things get updated. After the community stepped away, we sent 50 letters, I believe, within Dakota, notifying them of that their septic system, we know that their septic system is out of compliance and that they need to replace it. And then we've just been, we remind them, and most people know that there's a problem down there. A lot of it's financial. We did get quite a few people who did take the initiative and did follow through after those letters. There's still a handful that haven't, and we've been catching them on the point of sales. So right after they stepped away, we did an enforcement action, notifications, and got a large number of them updated right off the bat. But we didn't get everybody, and there's still a few that we're kind of trickling in as they sell. So hopefully we'll get to a point where we're not really hearing many of these anymore. I think some of you have been on the board longer. There was a while there that we were hearing them pretty often. I think they're starting to slow down a little bit.
Is there a change that could be made, like via the planning commission zoning wise, that would remove some of the responsibility from the county and put it on the city?
I don't know. That's something we could talk about in-house. I think it's probably something more that we are, at this point, it is up to those jurisdictions to decide on those. It was hard when we were going through that process. I think the state had some leverage if they wanted to bring that to bear at that time to say, this doesn't make sense to be on-site systems. And we said as much during meetings, but there was nobody forcing them to do it. And so it really came down to them making that decision. When they made the wrong decision, we were kind of left holding the bag.
Is the village of Dresbach in the same kind of predicament?
The village of Dresbach?
Yeah.
Yeah, very similar. They're different in that it's just a town board. They're not incorporated, so there's not a city council. But it is, again, yeah, it's similar in that there's small lots in an old platted area that was designed prior to city services or modern wastewater treatment systems. And so that just wasn't taken into account. Back in those days, everything went to the river. It worked super good. Piped to the river and it was gone, At a certain point, those pipes got cut for whatever reason. And then the sewage got a lot closer to home. And it became, and then, just modern, water quality monitoring and, everything else. People began to realize that this isn't going to fly any longer. So.
Are there any of the systems that have been replaced failing, the new ones? Do you have any?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay,
I don't know. Jeff, you work down there probably more than anybody.
Yeah. Recent ones that
Okay.
Yeah, I think they're all working pretty well as far as I know.
Thank you. I appreciate that history.
Let us know
Okay.
if you have any other questions.
Okay, thanks, Lou. And so,
I would like to move that we change number 2 to say that the variance is not consistent with the comp plan. Regarding the things I said earlier about severely limiting the use of holding tanks.
The holding tank, how would it be set up in the backyard
I
to fit the previous, like if they had to do the other system?
don't think
there
it
be
would.
space?
yes. Oh, okay. And what page is that on?
It'd be on page 28.
Oh, there we go. Okay, is there a second?
Second, for
To
discussion
changing,
purposes.
Yeah, to say that it is not consistent with the comprehensive plan. I mean, you can have the second and then we can discuss it.
That's right.
Okay, are you going to second it?
Second.
Oh, okay. Okay, the motion's been made that, that on page 28 of this petition, number 2, that the variance request is not consistent with the comprehensive plan. And it's seconded by Ed. So is there any discussion? Okay, go ahead. Joe.
We would still be able to approve it with that change, is that correct?
No.
No?
No.
Okay,
No, yeah,
I'll
Yeah.
withdraw my,
well, we can discuss it.
yeah,
mean,
I
it's
would like to
good-
discuss
Yeah, I
it,
mean, I
but
am curious, like, how the setup would go in the backyard with the space that they have. Like, if they were able to go with different-
yeah, I don't think they could.
Well, yeah, it's a good point, and and they're trying to just find a way to make it register somewhere.
Yeah.
And, so the minutes,
I
the
wish
minutes can reflect what the
I wish
motion and
they,
the second in discussion,
I
right?
wish there was some way we could put some pressure on
Yeah,
the municipality. I mean, this is just outrageous.
How would the minutes, go ahead, Kay. I think we mainly want to get it in the minutes.
For the purposes of your discussion, between the septic chapter of Winona County zoning ordinance, pages 263 through 264, holding tanks can only be used really to fulfill a restrictive provision, only when it can be conclusively shown that a standard SSTS system cannot be feasibly installed. The owner has to install the holding tank in accordance with Minnesota rules, section 7080.2290. That's, and again, Minnesota Pollution Control Agency. But they also have to maintain a valid contract with a licensed liquid waste hauler to pump and haul the holding tank to a licensed treatment facility. And the contractor did discuss that. It has to be regularly pumped. And the pumper has to certify each date that the pumping has happened. So where it would not be an ideal situation. There, we did codify it when it was apparent that there weren't a whole lot of other choices. So I just wanted to clarify that for staff. Thank you.
Okay. Is that in the conditions that are part of the, that there has to be a contract with a certified? Is that in here somewhere?
Well, I think it's number 2, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is it number 2?
yeah, I think that covers
Yeah,
it.
it's on there.
And of course, all county, state, other local, ordinances are already codified. So we would expect that to be followed. Thank you.
Yeah, so all the relevant regulations and standards is what would be the enforcement of that. Goes with that, okay. So, do we want to discuss that anymore or vote on it? Or,
I'm ready to vote on it.
okay.
I make a motion.
To vote?
Can I?
There's already a
Yeah, we have a motion.
Yeah, a motion.
Yeah,
on the floor.
And to be clear now that if you vote yes on this, that denies,
Yeah, right.
okay,
Doesn't automatically deny it, you still have to vote on the whole thing, it just means that that criteria is not met, and then you can't legally vote to.
vote,
You
yes.
have to withdraw your motion.
No, well,
Or
we
just
can vote it down.
Okay.
We can, okay. So all those in favor of the motion on the table and seconded by Ed and made by Jordan, that number 2, that it does, on the findings does not meet the comprehensive plan standards. All those in favor, and this is to say it does not meet. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. Nay. Okay, the motion fails. And then
I make a motion,
you make a motion to,
accept the findings and a fact on
this petition, yeah.
this specific petition from
POA, yeah, 2. And the conditions?
and the conditions
Okay.
outlined.
And is there a second?
Second.
Okay, the motion has been made to accept this petition that we are considering right now, number 2 today. And to accept it and the findings and the conditions that go with it. And is there any, and seconded by Ed, is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Petition is granted, and I will read the information as soon as I find it. Okay, appeals to the district court. All decisions by the Board of Adjustment in granting variances or in hearing appeals from any administrative order, requirement, decision, or determination shall be final, except that any aggrieved person or persons or any department, board, or commission of the jurisdiction or of the state shall have the right to appeal within 30 days after receipt of the notice of the decision to the district court in the county in which the land is located on questions of law and fact. Any party that would like to submit an appeal to the decision just rendered at this public hearing must do so to the district court. The planning department is not responsible for filing the appeal. And next order of business is adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion is made by Jordan, seconded by Chelsea. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say nay. The motion passes.